Hello again. Mike here to bring you the McKinsey 7S, the SWOT analysis, and the conclusion. So let's get right into it. What is the McKinsey 7S? Well, given the complexity of organizations now, the McKinsey 7S aims to map a framework of interrelated factors that influence an organization's ability to change. This is according to Thomas J. Peters and Robert H. Waterman. The tool is used to diagnose problems within a company and create tools to solve those issues and push the company forward. The 7S's stand for structure, systems, styles, staff, skills, and strategy, all interconnected in the shared value circle. SWOT analysis is defined as a study undertaken by an organization to identify its internal strengths and weaknesses, as well as its external opportunities and threats. After scoring Baxter's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, we were able to create strategies for the company. Strategies included strength opportunity strategies, which is by combining the company's strengths to take advantage of an opportunity. Other strategies include strength threat, whereby the company combines strengths to minimize damage from threats. The weakness opportunity strategies, where you overcome weaknesses to take advantage of an opportunity. And weakness threat strategies, which, if you haven't recognized the pattern yet, is a strategy based on overcoming a weakness to minimize a threat. So when it came to our final strategies, we broke the recommended strategies down into 4 final strategies we felt would be worthy of presentation to the board of directors. The strategies included 1 strength opportunity, 2 strength threats, and 1 weakness opportunity. I'll get into specifics later on. So let's talk about the opportunities and strengths. Well, Baxter's strengths are highlighted in their opportunities. Technological innovation, ability to acquire other companies, and digital transformation are among the most important strengths of Baxter International. Baxter has an extensive list of opportunities we outline in our SWOT analysis. The highest scored opportunity we outlined for Baxter is the steady increase in healthcare spending in the U.S. So long as Baxter can maintain low cost in their U.S. market share, their profits should increase simultaneously. Our next and almost equally scored opportunity came from the pandemic. Baxter makes a significant portion of their revenue from long-term treatment. During the height of COVID, patients were unable to attend routine checkups and non-emergency treatments. This in turn led to the severe progression of diseases which could have otherwise been prevented or not required long-term treatment. Now, one of Baxter's major strengths is their size and ability to acquire new technologies in existing companies. That strength invites strong opportunities for the company. As of January 28, 2022, Baxter has made 17 acquisitions and 24 investments in medical care technologies and solutions. Enough about the strengths, though. Let's talk about the threats and weaknesses. The most significant threat to Baxter, and just about every other company in the world right now, is supply chain shortages. The shortages have led to an increase in drug prices, and the issues seem inescapable for the time being. If the product can't be moved, then there is no profit. This is especially dangerous for companies in the healthcare industry, since proper storage of certain medications and equipment is vital to their consumability. Said proper storage is also very expensive. Now, the FDA does a wonderful job at making sure they only approve safe medicines and instruments, but they're incredibly underfunded and understaffed. Furthermore, the complexity of introducing new drugs and technologies takes a significant amount of time and funding. Combine those 2 forces, and what you'll realize is that the regulations in place can slow innovation significantly. In the past, Baxter has been involved in a few controversies. Recently, Baxter was hit with an $18 million penalty for engaging in what the SEC called improper intracompany foreign exchange transactions, which resulted in the misstatement of its net income. Now, this hurt Baxter in 2 ways. Firstly, $18 million is not a small amount of money, and secondly, they have misplaced trust with their shareholders and gave potentially new investors a reason to avoid investing in the company at all. So past controversies include some ethically questionable methods of study and some what you'd call $100 handshakes with doctors to manipulate some data. A few things you'd unfortunately expect from major healthcare companies. For those reasons, we identified Baxter's greatest threat as their involvement in the aforementioned controversies. Further weaknesses include recent low returns to investors, low gross profit margin, and a large amount of debt to equity. A little later on, I'll share the strategies we can pose in order to overcome some of these weaknesses using some of Baxter's strengths. So when it came to creating potential strategies, our group went to Google Forms to come up with the best strategies for each category. Remember, as I mentioned earlier, the categories we worked with were strength opportunity, strength threat, weakness opportunity, and weakness threat. Each team member submitted 3 resulting strategies for all 4 of the categories, and then we broke them down into the most viable strategies, worthy of the board's attention. Comments helped out tremendously in allowing team members to submit additional thoughts onto other team members' resulting strategies. The first strength opportunity combination we came up with was innovation and increased healthcare spending. The resulting strategy reads as follows. Healthcare spending in the U.S. has been on a steady incline for years. Baxter should use an increased R&D spending strategy to catalyze innovation and take advantage of the increased spending. It was one of the better ones we came up with, but it didn't make the final cut. Now moving on to the strength threat category, we came up with a strength in innovation and low returns to investors. Low returns to major investors and incoming ones makes the company appear weak. The resulting strategy we brought into the quarterfinals went as follows. Baxter needs to reassure their stockholders of long-term growth by publishing their innovation at every milestone, whilst not giving away any crucial information. Instead of waiting for the process of a new product to be almost complete, investors, at least the major ones, should be made aware of significant moments throughout the innovation process. This strategy did not make the final cut, mostly because of the risk involved with potentially alerting competitors of innovative treatments and technologies. Now circling back to the previous discussion about Baxter's involvement in controversies, we combined Baxter's strength of integrity with the threat of future controversy. This was the first strategy to reach the final strategies list, and it reads as follows. Baxter has been involved in a multitude of controversies in the past, and has since bolstered an integrity-driven company environment. To double down on the aforementioned, Baxter should increase their philanthropic spending and ensure a lot of publicity. Since, as I'll introduce momentarily, one strategy Baxter should take involves the marginalized patients of the pandemic and acquiring more companies. Therefore, Baxter should, as one example, sponsor free clinics for those especially impacted in a medical sense by the pandemic. Now that you have an idea of the work we're doing to reach our final selected strategies, allow me to introduce our final selected strategies. First is the strategy I introduced while discussing Baxter's need to increase their philanthropic spending. The strategy goes as follows. COVID is creating an opportunity for Baxter to obtain more long-term care patients, and the acquisition of other healthcare companies, such as Welch Allyn, will allow them to profit in multiple levels of the healthcare process. By acquiring more well-established companies, Baxter can create explosive long-term growth. Welch Allyn was used as the example in this strategy because they're a diagnostics company, and Baxter is mostly a long-term care company. So between the two, Baxter has secured profitability on each pull of the patient care process. And by acquiring more companies at every other level in between, Baxter can begin to eliminate competition and profit at all stages of care. Our next final selected strategy is as follows. Whilst working through the supply chain shortages, Baxter should maintain a focus on the most necessary products. Products that are necessary for the preservation of a patient's life should be top priority if and when shipments can be made. Orders for less important products should take a back seat, and long-term contracts for the purchase of those said products should be initiated to avoid a loss of profits when the weakness is overcome. Followed by the final strategy I've already mentioned, Baxter has been involved in a multitude of controversies in the past, and they're bolstering their integrity-driven company environment. So to double down on the aforementioned and cushion any future controversy, Baxter should increase their spending and philanthropy and ensure a lot of publicity. Now, these two strategies work in hand in the way that they stick to Baxter's mission of service to the global community. Those two strategies mesh very well with the company's current mission orientation. And finally, our last selected strategy is all about the money and investors. Baxter should use some of the cash they've freed up to pay off debt to increase their debt-to-equity ratio in order to make the company more appealing to new investors. New money means more money to spend on the other strategies we selected. Now, as we conclude, let's tie this all back together with the McKinsey 7S. Let's talk about structure. Structure won't be impacted by our selected strategies. Given the breadth of the company's structure, adjusting it would mean unnecessary stress and potential loss. However, existing structure will be added with the acquisition of new companies. Systems. Manufacturing and shipping systems will have to be adjusted to meet the requirements of the necessary product strategy. When it comes to skills, new skills will be brought in with the acquisition of new companies. The skills may need to be taught to upper-level management and low-level employees if it is decided to incorporate them into the acquired companies. Style. We won't have to include any new styles. And staff. New staff will have to be added in the acquisition of new companies, and some staff may need to be removed in order to pay off debt for the debt-equity ratio strategy. So, thank you for taking the time to let us teach you a little bit about what we learned about Baxter International, and we hope you learned something too. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions you might have. Thanks.